Hey YouTube, Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Impauldio deck profile for post-Omniscient Awakening. Like many of the Destin 1 decks, we got more support in the 5th booster set to make these decks more playable in a variant that focuses on the specific support for the Cardfight Vanguard decks and not having to run the generic expensive options as added backups for not having a good amount of cards needed for the individual Destin 1 deck. So figured I'd start with Impauldio as some of the other decks that didn't get a big grade 3 support like Levidros for the updates for these decks. Since we did see a couple new cards for the Impauldio deck, they definitely do help with the auto mode gauge abilities that these cards have. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to get started, we have the Ride deck, which consists of the Energy Generator. Our grade 0 is Falstaffler. When Rotopon, if you want second, draw a card. The grade 1 is Eno Progret. When this unit's placed by riding from a grade 0 card, reveal a grade 3 card with Impauldio on its card name from your Ride deck and put a System Codex token into your order zone, which we'll go over in just a bit. The grade 2 is Dross Evolia. When Rotopon by a grade 3 with Impauldio on its card name, put the top card of your deck face up as an auto mode gauge and choose a card from your auto mode gauge and you may put it into your hand. So this card gives you more options of being able to put the top card of your deck face up and then choose a card and just put it into your hand, giving you more recycle from cards in your auto mode gauge to cards in your hand, with our grade 3 being Destin 1 of Exodus, Impauldio. So we have the 1 copy in the Ride deck. We will run additional copies in the main deck as well, but before we get to that, we'll go over the system code Exceed from the order zone. This card is a Exceed token and cannot be put into the deck, so you just keep this card outside of the deck. In the order zone, you cannot ride grade 3 or greater cards without Impauldio in their card name. You can also have auto mode gauges. In the order zone, when a card is put into your damage zone during your opponent's turn, choose a card from your drop, put it face up in your auto mode gauge. If you have 3 or less auto mode gauges and this damage check reveal cards other than your trigger units, choose one of your vanguards and it gets +5 until end of turn. If you have 4 more auto mode gauges, choose one of your vanguards and it gets +5 until end of turn. So this card gives you added options for power to your vanguard if you did not already get a critical trigger, and then later on giving you the guaranteed +5 power for the more auto mode gauges you have face up as well. Along with the Impauldio, as I said before, that we're running in the Ride deck, we have 3 additional copies in the main deck as well, with the Vanguard ability of once per turn being able to counterblast 1, choose a card from your drop and put it face up as an auto mode gauge. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 grade 3 or less card from among them and call it to rear guard and shuffle the deck. And this unit gets on Vanguard, all your front row get +5 for every 2 of your auto mode gauges. So if you have 4 auto mode gauges in your system codex seed, you have a +10 power to your front row units, including your Vanguard. And it's Divine Skill on Vanguard if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, and you have 4 more auto mode gauges, counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand, and this unit gets critical +1 and drive +2 until end of turn. So added pressure having quadruple drive, the additional critical on top of the additional power that you'll have for all of the auto mode gauges built up in your system codex as well. For the backup grade 3s, we're running 4 copies of our Skyleap conversion, Vinskar, with this card on rearguard during your turn. If you have 2 or more auto mode gauges, this unit gets +5. If you have 8 or more auto mode gauges, this unit's drive checks cannot be reduced by card effects. And on rearguard, when this unit attacks, if you have 4 more auto mode gauges and no drive checks were performed for battles for your rearguard's attack this turn, counter +1 till end of battle, this unit performs drive checks and gets drive -1 until the end of that battle, and then bind this unit, getting rid of the potential unit to be able to use again. But that's why we're running 4 copies of this card to have a full power access to being able to perform the quadruple drive with your Vanguard, and then the potential, if you have the 8 or more auto mode gauges, an additional twin drive on your rearguard. So that's 6 cards you're going through from the deck for your drive checks alone with your backup grade 3 rearguard and your main go-to Vanguard. On top of that, we also run, for the last of the grade 3s, 1 copy of our hypersonic conversion Mach Fighter. On rearguard during the battle phase, this unit attacked. If you have 4 more auto mode gauges, all your opponent's rear guards cannot move from rear guard to guard circle. So just more of a restrictive grade 3 to as well that we have in this booster set. I would say it's just a 1 of tech. You don't really need multiple copies of this card compared to one of the other triple rares, which is definitely much better for the deck. So just 1 copy of this card. For the grade 2s, we're running 4 copies of our Nebula Invoke Dragon. On rear guard, when this unit attacks, Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets +5 until end of battle. If you have 5 or more auto mode gauges, it gets +15 instead of +5. So only 25k attacker on its own. And on rear guard, if you have 4 more auto mode gauges, it gets shield +15. 15, being able to have an additional intercept and have 20k guard to act as more of a defensive unit also on your opponent's turn as well. We also have the new grade 2, which is our roving probe from the drop. When this card is chosen by the original act ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Impauldio on its card name, choose one of your units and gets plus 10 to end the turn. Added pressure for power with this unit. So from the drop, just being able to be chosen by the act ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Impauldio and its card name. So this is meant to act as when you choose it for one of the auto mode gauges for Impauldio. So when you choose this card and place it as an auto mode gauge, then you'll have the added option to choose one of your units and it gets plus 10. So it's just a good card to set up in the drop zone to then be chosen by the ability of your grade 3 Vanguard. And from the drop, when this unit is chosen by the original auto ability of your system code Exceed, you can either counter charge 1 or you basically soul charge 1 or energy charge 1. There's no counter charging, but the energy charge definitely can help to speed things along with your energy usage, and then also the soul charge power to then have the soul blast ability for some of our other cards. So this card fully relies on just being chosen, whether it be from your system codex or your Vanguard alone, for its different abilities. For the new grade 1, we run 4 copies of Headway Router Dragon. Once again, with what we need for the energy charge setup, comes in the form of Headway Router Dragon. When this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have an auto mode gauge, Energy Blast 3, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with a different card name from this unit, and grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from among them, call it to rearguard, and shuffle the deck. So the big thing also with this deck is just rearguard setup. You're going to invest a lot in your plays, but then your hand can dwindle. So having a grade 1 that can help to set up our rear guards with just the use of Energy Blast definitely does come in handy. And when it boosts, if you have 5 or more auto mode gauges, Soul Blast 1 and gets plus 5 until the end of that battle. So making use of either the energy charge or the soul charge power of our roving probe definitely does come in handy with this grade 1. Our other grade 1s include the 3 copies of Gather TUT, or 2/2, and during your turn, if you have 4 more auto mode gauges, it gets plus 10,000 power. So a potential 18k booster or 18k attacker on its own, thanks to this card. And the 3 copies of Spacewalk Dragon. At the end of the battle, is boosted if you have 2 more auto mode gauges. Put this card into the soul, choose one of your opponent's grade 1 or less rear guards, and retire it. So a little specific on what to retire, but still a great option to have when going up against your opponent to get rid of some pesky back row. With the last of our grade 1s being the 4 Bauble Mine. This is just pretty much staple in a good number of Brand Gate decks that have a card in the order zone as a set order. Being able to put it into the soul and have counter charge as our option with this unit. And then also the Sentinel lineup being the Elementaria Sanctitude and the 3 copies of Violate Dragon. With the trigger lineup being the 8 critical for added pressure with Impauldio's quadruple drive and then the potential rear guard twin drive to have a better chance to hit maximum critical trigger power. The 3 copies of Cardinal Draco Imperio for added pressure to the front row on top of Impauldio's own ability. And then the heal lineup being 2 of the generic heals and then 2 of the ability ones. If you want to go full generic, you can always replace them as well, with our Eldo Breath being the last of the critical of the over trigger as well for added pressure with our Vanguard. And that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. As I said, I was very much happy with the new support we got for Impauldio from the latest booster set. It helps us stray away from needing the generic support and just being able to rely fully on the auto mode gauges ability of our Vanguard. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.